When did you know or realise that you were different?
It's kind of weird because I said it so many times. At the beginning, you want to be the best in your house. Then you want to be the best in your street where you live, then the best in your town, and then the best in your district, and the best in your, and you know, whatever. So when I was going down to play with my brother, he's 7 years older than me. So obviously, as you can imagine, I'm 8, they're 15. There's no match in terms of, you know, physical ability and abilities and whatnot. So it was a bit difficult for me, but I was finding a way to score goals and make myself available. So every time, then suddenly the guys were like, hey, call your brother, can he play with us? And I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. Then you start to play with your local team and you start to score goals, but it's you're kind of too young to realize that what's happening. You just play. And then you start to think about that something can happen. When I went to Clairefontaine, and some teams are like, would you like to visit the youth team training ground of Monaco or Nantes, just to see how it is? And you're like, oh, really? You know? And then, you know, you start to be called in the national team. But the first time I really realized that something was happening is, I think my second season, my second year at Clairefontaine, because I moved to a team and then I started to really play well on a daily basis, and then guys wanted to, you know, Monaco came, I signed for Monaco, and then I went to see their training facilities, and you kind of, oh, that's next. Normally, if you work hard, that's next, and yeah, that's when it happened.
But your first big move was as a young man from Monaco to Juventus. Did that have any impact on the Thierry Henry that developed as a footballer at Arsenal?
Well, it did, because when I arrived at Juve, I think I went in January, so they were 9th in the league, having some trouble, a lot of problem. I arrived there, Lippi was the coach, then he got sacked after 2-3 games, if I remember, 2, 3 or 4 maybe. Then Ancelotti arrived. That's when I started to play. I mean, the first 4 games I actually didn't start, 3. Then I started to play. Then I started to get into a rhythm. And what actually happened there is Juve and the people in charge of Juve like tested me as a man. And that's when I became a man, because I stood up for myself that day and I said, whatever you guys are trying to do with your business or whatever, I'm not on into it. I'm not going to accept that, sorry. And I said, I'm leaving and I want to play for Arsenal. So that's what happened. So that was a test, I guess, for me to see where my character was. And if I didn't have any character, maybe I would have been on loan on some weird team and lost my way. But I stood up to them and I said, you're not going to do that with me. So I said, I'm leaving this club and I'm going to play for Arsenal Football Club.
And at that point, you were united with Arsene Wenger for the second time. Was that the harmony that you needed? And a lot of people credit Arsene Wenger for sort of saving you. But did the relationship work both ways? You were also very good for him.
I'm glad you're saying that, because it goes both ways. I said it so many times, but all I can say is that, you know, Arsene obviously was more than, I mean, everybody knows how I feel about Arsene Wenger. He's like a dad. You know, he helped me a lot. But when I arrived at Arsenal, I made myself available. Then, when you arrive at Arsenal Football Club, if you don't perform, do you think Arsene would have put me on the field if I wasn't performing? Because I remember well at the beginning I was on the bench when I wasn't performing. And rightly so, because I wasn't performing, and that's the way the game is. There's no time for oh, I love you, or stuff like that. If you perform, people love you. If you don't, you know, oh, it was nice, you know. And then after you start to develop a relationship, because Arsene knew he could count on me and I could count on them. Like my team knew that they could count on me and I could count on them. Then therefore, after you go into talks about life, about football, about whatever, that goes beyond whatever you could imagine at the beginning. So yeah, Arsene did help me a hell of a lot, but I would like to think that, you know, I did help a bit.
So what gives you the most pride? Is it the trophies you won? I think 15 major trophies. Is it the 300-odd goals that you scored, or is it the idolisation of the fans that you had wherever you played?
No, I mean, one thing that I always did fight against, and I still do, by the way, and it's still, I go crazy when I see it. That's the type of thing, you see, even you talking to me right now, you didn't mention my assets. And for me, it's something I always talked about. I was never a natural born scorer. I mean, that goes without saying, you know. But I had to fight also at the beginning to make people understand that a striker doesn't have to be in the box to score goals, you know. People were like, you know, I said it so many times, people were like, what is he doing on the left? What is he doing on the right? He will never score. And it took time for people to understand that my game was different. It took time for people to understand that you don't have to be in the box to score a goal. It helps, obviously, but you don't have to. It's not a must. There are no rules that say a striker has to be in the box. What he has the right to do is to make his team score, because at the end of the day, it's not he has to score. The team has to score. Like, we have to score. I don't have to score. So I did fight against that for a very long time, and at one point, people started to recognize that about my game. But for me, it's I would say, throughout my career, you can always talk about the accolades and achievements and whatever, or what I didn't win or what I didn't do too, don't get me wrong. But at the end of the day, I stayed true to what I believed in. Is when I arrived in England, I said to myself, I'm going to be myself, not what, you know, be in the box type of thing. And I could have done it because I was getting hammered, and rightly so. But I was getting hammered because I wasn't scoring, not because I wasn't in the box, because I proved after that you can score without being in the box. So the point of the whole argument there was being scoring a goal, not being in the box. But never mind. And I stayed on that. And one of the things that I like, I would say that I'm proud of, is that I was trying to be a complete striker. At times it didn't work, like I said to you. But for me, it's important to give a ball, to give a goal. It is as important than to score one.
Well, the assists and the goals contributed to 15 major trophies. Is there not one that you look back on, think that is particularly special to me?
Anything that we have done, for me, as a team. And obviously when you win, you did something great as a team, because if you don't play as a team throughout the whole season, you'll never win anything. It's kind of weird to say what I'm about to say, having said that I learned way more about myself and about my team in losses.
There weren't too many of those, particularly not in that period at Arsenal between 2001 and 2006. 130 goals and 53 assists. Did you feel personally invincible at that stage, unplayable, if you like?
We had one season unbeaten and 49 games unbeaten, so I would say we were invincible for 49 games. It's not me saying it, it's not you, it's just the facts are talking. We were unbeatable.
But in that period?
The thing is, especially, I mean, not only in England, everywhere, you can't just like think about what you're doing. Now I can talk about it, but while you're doing it, it's impossible. I wasn't going back home and say, hey, no one can beat us. No, you can't. Because also, along the way, I know we're talking about the Premier League. Along the way, we lost some games in other competitions. So that, gives you a little, it can happen. So I didn't think that. All I wanted to do every time is go out there and help my teammates. We were helping each other. Every time I hear, he played with Dennis Bergkamp, he played with Patrick Vieira, and rightly so. If it wasn't for those guys, I wouldn't have been there, but I played with them too. It was a together thing. And every time you mention those guys, people forget Lauren. I said it so many times, people forget Kolo Touré, people forget, no, they don't forget Ashley Cole because he was getting some hype, but people forget Gilberto Silva. People forget all those guys, Ray Parler, he wasn't getting the hype that we were getting, but without him, there was no Dennis Bergkamp or me or Patrick Vieira or whoever. So we were conscious of that, and it did help. You could see the togetherness at the time. So for me, again, when you go back to that, it's all about the team.
Are there moments when you lie back at night and you think of a particular goal an amazing strike or something that
No,
meant
I
so
will
much
tell
to
you
your
what.
team?
I'll tell you. I'm thinking about the stuff that I missed. Yeah.
Still?
Yeah, of course. How can I not forget about the final, the Champions League final? For me, and it's still not a done deal, because at the end of the day, hopefully, in some capacity, I can go back to Arsenal and finally I can be part of somehow a team that can lift that trophy. That's something that I think about. We didn't win the Champions League with Arsenal. With the team that we had, we failed. And all this type of thing, that's the type of thing I think about. Can it be erased? No. But that's the type of thing I think about when I'm at home.
You lost your heart to Arsenal. You've said as much before, but you actually won more trophies in Spain with Barcelona. Did that almost complete your football education?
It did. It did. And everybody knows the love that I have for Arsenal. It's not a joke. It's the team that I support. I love Arsenal Football Club, and it will always be that way. But I'm a competitor, and at one point, I didn't see the team going the way I wanted to go, so it was a bit difficult. I cried when I left Arsenal. I'm not ashamed of saying it. I cried. It was very difficult to go somewhere also where you have to start from zero again. I knew it was going to be a difficult task, but when I arrived, so Deco, Ronaldinho, Messi, Eto'o, Iniesta, Xavi, Yaya Touré. I went there for a reason, and with the help of my team over there, the fans also of Barcelona, I did succeed. And at the end of the day, I was part of a, if I can say, maybe people will argue, but one of the most successful team in the history of the game. So I was part of that and proud to be. My Barcelona time completed what I was looking for.